The summer sun was setting over the mountains of Montana, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. 8-year-old Lily Monroe was playing in her backyard, chasing fireflies that had just started to come out. Her golden hair bounced as she ran through the tall grass, her laughter filling the evening air. It was a perfect night, the kind of night that made you forget that anything bad could ever happen in the world. Her father, Danny Monroe, stood on the back porch watching her with a cup of coffee in his hand. He was a big man with broad shoulders and hands that had seen hard work. 10 years ago, he had been a Marine, serving in places he still could not talk about. Now he was a rancher and he liked it that way. The quiet life suited him. His wife had passed away 3 years ago from cancer, and Lily was everything he had left in the world. She was his whole universe. 5 more minutes, sweetheart, he called out to her. Then it's bath time. Okay, Daddy, she shouted back, still chasing the tiny lights that floated around her. Danny smiled and took another sip of his coffee. The night was peaceful. The stars were starting to appear above. Everything was exactly as it should be. Then the sky changed. It started as a low hum, so deep that Danny felt it in his chest before he heard it with his ears. The coffee cup slipped from his fingers and shattered on the wooden porch. Above the tree line, a section of the sky seemed to fold in on itself, and then something emerged from the darkness. It was a ship, but unlike anything Danny had ever seen. It was black and sleek, shaped like a curved blade, and it made no sound as it moved. It just hung there in the air, blocking out the stars. Lily stopped running. She looked up at the ship with wide eyes, too scared to move. Lily, Danny screamed. He jumped off the porch and started running toward her, his legs pumping as fast as they could carry him. But he was too slow. He was always going to be too slow. A beam of blue light shot down from the bottom of the ship and wrapped around his daughter. She screamed for him, reaching out her small hand toward him as her feet left the ground. Danny ran harder, his lungs burning, his heart pounding so loud he could hear nothing else. He reached out for her, his fingers brushing against hers for just a moment before she was pulled up and away, disappearing into the light. Lily, no, Lily. The light vanished. The ship folded back into that strange darkness and was gone. The sky returned to normal, peaceful, and full of stars, as if nothing had happened at all. Danny fell to his knees in the grass where his daughter had been standing just seconds ago. His hands grabbed at nothing. His voice broke as he screamed her name over and over again, but there was no answer. She was gone. He stayed there for a long time, unable to move, unable to think. The world had stopped making sense. His little girl had been taken from him, pulled into the sky by something that should not exist. He did not know what to do. He did not know how to feel anything except a cold, empty rage that was building inside him like a storm. When he finally stood up, his face had changed. The softness was gone. The father who smiled at fireflies was gone. What remained was the Marine, the man who had survived things that would break most people, the man who did not know how to quit. He walked back to the house, picked up his phone, and made a call. His sister Bate answered on the second ring. She was 5 years younger than him, but twice as sharp. She had served in Army intelligence before leaving to work as a private contractor. She knew people. She knew secrets. And she was the only person Danny trusted with what he was about to say. Bate, he said, his voice flat and hard. Something took Lily, something from the sky. I need your help. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Most people would have thought he was crazy. Most people would have told him to calm down, to think clearly, to call the police. But Bate was not most people. Tell me everything, she said. Danny told her. He described the ship, the light, the way his daughter had been pulled into the air like she weighed nothing at all. He told her how the sky had folded and how the ship had vanished without a trace. He told her everything, and when he was done, Bate was quiet for a moment. I believe you, she said finally, and I think I know what we need to do. But Danny, this is going to take us somewhere we can never come back from. Are you sure you want to go down this road? Danny looked out the window at the empty backyard where his daughter had been playing just an hour ago. His jaw tightened. "They took my little girl," he said. "There is nothing in this universe that will stop me from getting her back. Nothing." Bate took a deep breath. "Then give me 24 hours. I need to make some calls." She hung up and Danny sat down at his kitchen table to wait. He did not sleep that night. He just sat there in the dark, staring at a picture of Lily on the wall, making a promise to her in his heart. He would find her. He would bring her home. And whoever had taken her would learn what a terrible mistake they had made. 24 hours later, Bate arrived at the ranch with two men Danny had never met. The first was Greg Tanner, a retired Navy SEAL with cold eyes and a quiet voice. He carried himself like a man who had seen death many times and was not afraid of it. The second was Sam, a thin young man with messy hair and nervous energy. He had worked for the NSA as a hacker before disappearing from the system entirely. Now he lived off the grid and trusted no one except Bate. "These are the best people I know," Bate said to Danny. "Greg for the fighting, Sam for everything else. And I have one more thing." She pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. Inside were photographs and documents that made Danny's blood run cold. They showed a crashed ship, hidden in a facility beneath the Nevada desert. They showed alien bodies, gray and broken. They showed technology that looked like it came from another world. "The government has been hiding this for decades," Bates said. "But I know someone who can get us inside. If we can get that ship working, we can follow the ones who took Lily." Danny looked at the photographs, then at his sister, then at the two men who had agreed to help him. They were about to do something impossible. They were about to chase his daughter across the stars. "When do we leave?" he asked. Bates smiled, but there was no warmth in it, only determination. "Tonight." Flagship moved through the darkness of space like a predator gliding through deep water. It was called the Dread Harvest, and it had earned its name over centuries of hunting across the galaxy. The ship was massive, with sharp angles and black metal that seemed to swallow light. Inside its belly, dozens of holding cells contained the latest catch from primitive worlds across 3-star systems. Commander stood on the bridge, watching the stars slide past the viewing screen. He was tall with dark green scales and yellow eyes that never blinked. His species had ruled the arena circuits for 1,000 years. They were predators, hunters, the most feared creatures in the known galaxy. Other species trembled at the sight of ships. Empires paid tribute to avoid their attention, and for good reason. "Report on the new specimens," ordered, his voice like stones grinding together. His subordinate, a younger named, pulled up the data on his screen. 47 specimens collected from 8 worlds, Commander. 23 are suitable for the junior arenas, 18 for the main events. 6 are too damaged to be useful. "And the human child?" Hesitated. "She is unusual, Commander. She has not screamed or cried since we brought her aboard. She just watches. The guards find her unsettling." Made a sound that might have been laughter. "Unsettling. She is a child from a primitive. She is nothing. Put her in the junior arena when we arrive at station. She will provide a few moments of entertainment before she dies." "Yes, Commander." Turned back to the viewing screen, already forgetting about the human child. He had more important things to think about. The arena season was about to begin, and there were fortunes to be made. Deep in the holding cells, Lily Monroe sat with her back against the cold metal wall. The cell was small and dark, lit only by a dim red light in the ceiling. Around her were other children from other worlds. Some had blue skin. Some had 4 arms. Some had features she could not even describe. They were all crying, shaking, calling out for parents who could not hear them. But Lily was not crying, she was thinking. Her father had taught her many things over the years. He had taught her how to stay calm when she was scared. He had taught her how to watch and listen and wait for the right moment. He had taught her that fear was just a feeling and feelings could be controlled. She missed him so much it hurt, but she knew that crying would not help her. Crying would not get her home. So she watched. She counted the guards as they walked past her cell. She memorized their patrol patterns. She noticed which ones carried keys and which ones carried weapons. She studied the lock on her cell door, looking for any weakness. She was 8 years old, but she was her father's daughter, and she would not give up. Far across the galaxy, that same father was about to do something that no human had ever done before. The Nevada desert was cold at night, and the wind cut like a knife as the team approached the hidden facility. Bate had obtained the access codes from a contact who owed her several dangerous favors. Sam had disabled the perimeter sensors from a laptop in the back of their van. Now it was time for the hard part. Security rotation changes in 3 minutes, Sam said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. You have a window of about 90 seconds to get through the main door. Danny nodded and looked at Greg. The former SEAL checked his weapon and gave a small nod in return. They had not spoken much during the drive, but Danny already understood the kind of man Greg was. He was the kind of man you wanted beside you when everything went wrong. They moved fast and quiet, crossing the open ground in the darkness. Bate had been right about the security. It was tight, but it was designed to keep people out, not to handle a coordinated assault by people who knew exactly what they were doing. They were inside the main building in under a minute. What they found inside took Danny's breath away. The facility was built around a massive underground hangar, and in the center of that hangar sat a ship. It was smaller than the one that had taken Lily, more like a scout or a fighter, but it was clearly made by the same hands. The same black metal, the same curved design, the same alien technology that should not exist. They have had this for 60 years, Bates said quietly. They have been studying it, trying to understand it, but they never got it to work. Sam was already at a control panel, connecting his laptop to the alien systems. That is because they did not have me, he said. Give me an hour. I can wake this thing up. Danny walked around the ship, running his hand along its surface. It was cold and smooth, like touching glass. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars, his daughter was waiting for him. She was scared and alone, and every second that passed was a second too long. Can you really fly this thing? Greg asked, coming to stand beside him. Danny did not take his eyes off the ship. I flew helicopters in the Marines. How different can it be? Greg raised an eyebrow but said nothing. True to his word, Sam had the ship powered up within the hour. The alien systems were strange, but he had found a way to interface with them through his laptop. The star charts stored in the ship's memory showed hundreds of locations across the galaxy, including the route that the Dread Harvest had taken when it left Earth. I have their destination, Sam said, his voice shaking with excitement and fear. A place called Station. It is some kind of orbital structure about 40 light years from here. Bate looked at the star chart on the screen. Can we get there? The ship has some kind of faster-than-light drive. I think I can make it work, but I have never done anything like this before. None of us have. Danny climbed into the pilot's seat and looked at the alien controls in front of him. They were confusing and strange, but he would figure them out. He had no other choice. Everyone strap in, he said. We are going to get my daughter back. The ship rose from the hangar floor, its engines humming with power. The ceiling above them opened automatically, revealing the night sky full of stars. Danny took a deep breath and pushed the throttle forward. The ship shot into the sky like a bullet, climbing faster than anything Danny had ever flown before. Within seconds, they had left the atmosphere behind. The Earth hung below them, a beautiful blue marble in the darkness of space. Then Sam activated the faster-than-light drive, and the stars stretched into lines of light around them. The ship jumped forward, crossing distances that should have been impossible, chasing a little girl across the galaxy. Danny gripped the controls and kept his eyes forward. He was coming for her, and nothing in the universe was going to stop him. Station was the largest structure Lily had ever seen. It hung in the darkness of space like a small moon, covered in lights and towers and docking bays where hundreds of ships came and went. Through the small window of the transport ship, she could see its shape clearly. It was built like a ring, with a massive open center where something bright and colorful was happening. She did not know it yet, but that center was the arena, and it was where she was going to be sent. The Dread Harvest docked at the station, and the prisoners were unloaded one by one. Guards with shock sticks pushed them forward through long metal hallways. The other children cried and stumbled, but Lily walked with her head up, watching everything around her. She counted the turns they made. She noted the doors and the symbols marked on them. She remembered everything, storing it away in her mind like her father had taught her. They were taken to a holding area deep inside the station. It was cleaner than the cells on the ship, but just as cold. Strange aliens of many different species walked past, looking at the new prisoners like they were animals at a market. Some of them pointed at Lily and made sounds she did not understand. She stared back at them without blinking until they looked away. An official came to inspect the new arrivals. He was shorter than the guards but wore finer clothes, decorated with symbols that must have meant something important. He stopped in front of Lily and looked down at her with his yellow eyes. "This is the human?" he asked. "Yes, handler," the guard answered, "from the called Earth." Leaned closer, studying Lily like she was a strange insect. "What does that mean?" "The planet has extreme conditions. High gravity, toxic atmosphere, unstable climate, dangerous predators. The species evolved under very harsh circumstances." Made a dismissive sound. "She is small and weak. Look at her soft skin. She has no claws, no fangs, no armor. She will die quickly in the junior arena." He turned away. "Schedule her for the morning session. She can warm up the crowd before the real fights begin." Lily watched him go, her small hands curling into fists at her sides. They thought she was weak. They thought she would die quickly. They had no idea what they were dealing with. The next morning, Lily was taken to a small chamber beneath the arena. She could hear the roar of the crowd above her, thousands of aliens cheering and shouting. The sound was terrifying, but she pushed the fear down into a small box in her mind and locked it away. Fear would not help her now. Only focus would help her. A door opened, and she was pushed into the arena. The space was huge, bigger than any football field she had ever seen. The floor was covered with sand and rocks and broken pieces of metal. High walls surrounded it, and above those walls were rows and rows of seats filled with aliens of every shape and size. Giant screens floated in the air, showing her face to everyone in the station. Then she heard a growl. From the other side of the arena, a gate opened and something came out. It was a beast, about the size of a large dog, with 6 legs and gray skin covered in spines. Its mouth was full of fangs that dripped with something yellow and wet. It moved fast, circling her, testing her, looking for weakness. Lily did not run. She did not scream. She looked around the arena floor and spotted what she needed. A broken piece of metal rod about as long as her arm, lying in the sand a few feet away. She moved toward it slowly, keeping her eyes on the beast. The creature charged. Everything her father had taught her came flooding back. When something bigger than you attacks, you do not try to fight its strength. You use its speed against it. You wait for the right moment and then you move. The beast leaped at her, fangs aimed at her throat. Lily dove to the side at the last second, rolling through the sand and grabbing the metal rod as she went. She came up on her feet just as the creature turned to face her again. This time she was ready. It charged again, faster than before. Lily stood perfectly still, counting the seconds in her head. At the last possible moment, she unswung the metal rod with all her strength. The rod struck the creature in the soft spot behind its skull, the place where the spine connected to the brain. The beast crashed to the ground and did not move again. The arena fell completely silent. Lily stood over the dead creature, breathing hard, the metal rod still gripped in her small hands. Blood that was not hers was splattered across her face and clothes. She looked up at the crowd, at the thousands of aliens staring down at her in shock, and she did not look away. In the viewing box high above the arena, Commander stood frozen. His scales had gone pale, a sign of deep unease among his kind. He had watched many fights in his long life. He had seen warriors and monsters and creatures of terrible power, but he had never seen anything like this. "What just happened?" he demanded. Handler was shaking. The human child, she killed a trained arena beast with a piece of scrap metal. "I can see that. How is this possible? She is a child." Pulled up the data on his screen, his claws trembling as he worked. "The human species. Commander, I do not think we understood what we were dealing with. They're as classified as a Class 12, the highest classification. They evolved as persistent predators, hunting creatures larger than themselves across vast distances until their prey collapsed from exhaustion. Their bodies can heal from injuries that would kill most species. Their bones are dense enough to withstand impacts that would shatter our own. And their minds. What about their minds? They are adapted for endurance and stress. They can suppress fear, ignore pain, and continue functioning under conditions that would cause most intelligent species to shut down completely. The child did not panic because her brain would not let her panic. She is biologically designed to survive." Stared down at the arena floor, where the small human child was still standing over her kill. She was looking directly at him now, as if she could see him through the one-way glass of the viewing box. Her eyes were cold and steady, like the eyes of a predator. For the first time in his long career, Commander felt something he had almost forgotten how to feel. He felt afraid. "Find out everything you can about this species," he ordered quietly. "Everything, and increase security on all human specimens immediately." Down in the arena, Lily was led away by guards who now kept their distance from her. The crowd was still silent, still trying to understand what they had just witnessed. But Lily was not thinking about them. She was thinking about the layout of the station, about the patrol pattern she had memorized, about the door she had seen that led to the docking bays. She was thinking about escape, and she was thinking about her father, somewhere out there in the stars, coming to find her. She just had to stay alive long enough for him to arrive. The stolen ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a flash of blue light. Danny gripped the controls as the normal universe snapped back into place around them. Stars became points of light again instead of streaks, and directly ahead of them hung station. It was even bigger than he had imagined. The station was like a small city floating in space, covered in towers and lights and docking arms where hundreds of ships were connected. Through the windows of the cockpit, Danny could see vessels of every size and shape coming and going. Some were sleek and fast, like racing boats. Others were huge and slow, like cargo ships. And some were dark and angular, the kind of ships that made you want to look away. "That is a lot of traffic," Bates said from behind him. "How do we get in without being noticed?" Sam was already working on his laptop, scanning the station's communication frequencies. "They are using some kind of identification system for incoming ships. Every vessel has to transmit a code before they can dock." He typed rapidly for a few seconds. "Lucky for us, I pulled a bunch of codes from the ship's memory. One of them should still work." He sent the signal and everyone held their breath. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a voice came through the speakers, speaking in a language none of them understood. A second later, Sam's laptop translated it. "Vessel recognized. Proceed to docking bay 47. Danny let out the breath he had been holding. "Nice work, Sam." "Do not thank me yet," Sam replied. "Getting in was the easy part. Getting out is going to be a lot harder." They docked the ship and stepped out into station. The docking bay was enormous, filled with noise and movement and aliens of every kind. Danny had seen a lot of strange things in his life, but nothing had prepared him for this. Creatures with too many eyes walked past him. Beings made of what looked like living crystal floated through the air. A group of tall, thin aliens with gray skin and long fingers argued loudly near a cargo container. But one thing caught Danny's attention more than anything else. The other species avoided the. Whenever a reptilian figure in dark armor walked through the crowd, the other aliens moved out of the way quickly, their eyes down. They were afraid. The whole station was built on fear. Bait fell into step beside him. I have been listening to conversations since we landed. The arena here, it is some kind of gladiator setup. They capture species from different worlds and force them to fight for entertainment. Danny's jaw tightened. And that is where they are keeping the children. That is my guess, but the arena complex is heavily guarded. We cannot just walk in. Then we find another way. They spent the next several hours gathering information. Bait used her intelligence training to listen and observe. Sam hacked into the station's network and downloaded maps and security schedules. Greg disappeared into the crowds and came back with information gathered through methods he did not explain. Piece by piece, they built a picture of the station and where the prisoners were being held. The children were kept in a holding facility beneath the main arena. Security was heavy, but there were weaknesses. The guards changed shifts every 6 hours, and there was a 5-minute window when the corridors were mostly empty. The electronic locks on the cell doors were sophisticated, but Sam was confident he could crack them. But there was a problem. "Your daughter is not in the holding cells," Sam said, looking at his screen with a worried expression. "She was moved earlier today." Danny felt his heart stop. Moved where? The arena. She is scheduled for something called the evening main event. It starts in 2 hours. Greg leaned over to look at the screen. What does that mean, main event? Sam's face was pale as he read the information. It means she is going to fight against something called a mauler. He pulled up an image on his screen and everyone went quiet. The creature was massive, easily 8 feet tall, with 4 arms ending in claws the size of kitchen knives. Its body was covered in thick armor plates, and its mouth was a nightmare of teeth. These things are bred specifically for killing. No one has ever survived a fight against one in this arena. Danny stared at the image. His hands were shaking, but not with fear. It was rage, pure and cold, building inside him like a fire that could not be put out. His little girl was going to be thrown into a pit with that monster. They were going to watch her die for entertainment. Not while he was still breathing. "Change of plans," he said, his voice flat and hard. "We are not sneaking in, we are going through them." Bait looked at him. "Danny, there are hundreds of guards in that arena. We cannot fight all of them." "We do not have to fight all of them. We just have to fight long enough to get Lily out." He turned to Sam. "Can you shut down the power in the arena?" Sam thought for a moment. "I can cause a blackout, maybe 30 seconds before their backup systems kick in." "That is enough. Greg, Bait, you handle the guards. Sam, you get the doors open and free the other prisoners. I am going into the arena to get my daughter." Greg checked his weapons and gave a small nod. "I have been waiting for this." Bait shook her head but smiled grimly. "You always were the crazy one in the family." Danny pulled a knife from his belt and tested its edge. It was not much against alien technology and armored guards, but he had fought with less before. He had survived things that should have killed him a dozen times over, and he had never had anything worth fighting for as much as he had right now. "We move in 1 hour," he said. "When the main event starts, we hit them, fast and hard. No hesitation, no retreat. We get the children and we get out." The team moved into position, spreading out through the station. Danny found a spot where he could see the arena entrance, watching guards patrol back and forth. In less than an hour, he would be inside. He would find his daughter, and anyone who tried to stop him was going to learn what a human father was capable of when someone threatened his child. He thought about Lily, somewhere inside that massive structure, probably scared but trying to be brave. He thought about the promise he had made to her picture back in Montana. He thought about his wife, gone but never forgotten, and how much Lily looked like her. "Hold on, sweetheart," he thought. "Daddy is coming." The arena was packed with thousands of spectators when the lights dimmed for the main event. Aliens of every species filled the seats, shouting and cheering as giant screens showed the face of the next victim. It was a human child, the same one who had killed an arena beast with her bare hands just that morning. The crowd was excited. They wanted to see if she could do it again. Most of them were betting she could not. Lily stood in the center of the arena floor, alone under the harsh white lights. She was tired and hungry and scared, but she did not let any of that show on her face. Across from her, a massive gate was slowly rising, and behind it she could hear something breathing. Something big. The mauler stepped into the light, and the crowd roared. It was even larger than she had imagined, a mountain of muscle and armor and claws. Its eyes locked onto her with a hungry intelligence that made her stomach drop. This was not like the creature from the morning. This was a killer designed for one purpose, and that purpose was standing right in front of it. Lily looked around for anything she could use as a weapon. There was nothing. The arena floor had been cleared before this fight. They wanted to watch her die helpless. The mauler began to move toward her, slow and deliberate, enjoying the fear it expected to see. Lily took a step back, then another, her mind racing through options that were not there. Then the lights went out. The arena plunged into complete darkness. The crowd screamed in confusion. Emergency alarms started blaring, and somewhere above her, Lily heard the sound of metal crashing and men shouting. A beam of light cut through the darkness, and a figure dropped from a service hatch in the ceiling, landing between her and the mauler. The figure was human, tall and broad, holding a weapon that crackled with stolen energy. "Daddy!" Lily screamed. Danny Monroe turned and saw his daughter for the first time in weeks. She was dirty and thin and wearing clothes that were not her own, but she was alive. She was alive, and that was all that mattered. "Stay behind me, sweetheart," he said. The backup lights flickered on, filling the arena with a dim red glow. The mauler had not moved during the blackout, but now it focused on this new target. It let out a roar that shook the walls and charged. Danny met it head-on. He fired the energy weapon 3 times, but the blasts bounced off the creature's armor plates. Then it was on him, 4 arms swinging, claws slicing through the air. Danny threw himself to the side, rolled, and came up slashing with his knife. The blade found a gap in the armor under the creature's arm, and dark blood sprayed across the sand. The mauler screamed and spun, catching Danny with a backhand blow that sent him flying. He hit the arena wall hard enough to crack ribs and slid to the ground, gasping for breath. But he was already pushing himself back up. He had taken worse than this. He had survived worse than this. The crowd had gone silent. They had never seen anything like this. A human, a single adult from was fighting a mauler with nothing but a knife and refusing to die. The mauler charged again. Danny waited until the last moment, then ducked under its swing and drove his knife into the creature's knee joint. The beast stumbled off balance, and Danny climbed up its body like it was a ladder, stabbing again and again, finding every weak point, every gap in the armor. Blood was running down his face. His left arm was hanging limp where a claw had caught it, but he did not stop. With a final thrust, he buried the knife in the base of the mauler's skull. The creature shuddered once and collapsed, crashing to the arena floor like a falling building. Danny stood on top of its body, breathing hard, covered in blood that was mostly not his own. He looked up at the viewing box where Commander was watching. Even through the distance and the darkness, their eyes met. Saw something in that look that made his scales go white. It was not hatred, it was something worse. It was a promise. The human would remember his face. The human would come for him. High above the arena, Bate and Greg were holding off waves of guards. Bate had taken a plasma rifle from a fallen enemy and was using it with deadly accuracy. Greg was fighting hand-to-hand with anyone who got too close, breaking bones and taking weapons as he moved. "Sam, how are those doors coming?" Bates shouted into her radio. "Opening now," Sam's voice crackled back. "All the prisoners are free. I am guiding them to the docking bay." "Then let us get out of here." Danny grabbed Lily and ran. Guards tried to stop them, but Greg appeared out of nowhere and cleared a path. Bate provided cover fire from above. They moved through the station like a force of nature, leaving chaos in their wake. At the docking bay, the freed prisoners were streaming onto any ship that would hold them. Species that had been enemies before were working together now, united by their hatred of the. Sam was at a control panel, his fingers flying. "I am broadcasting a message on every frequency," he said, "letting everyone know what they have been doing here. Every slave world, every species they have hunted. They are all going to know." Danny carried Lily onto their ship and strapped her into a seat. She was shaking now, the strength that had kept her going finally giving way to exhaustion and relief. He knelt in front of her and took her face in his hands. "I told you I would come," he said, his voice breaking. Lily threw her arms around his neck and held on tight. "I knew you would, Daddy. I knew it." The ship launched into space just as security vessels started to mobilize. But it was too late. Dozens of stolen ships were scattering in every direction, carrying freed prisoners and Sam's message to every corner of the galaxy. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The message spread like fire. Species that had lived in fear of for generations began to rise up. The arena circuits collapsed as worlds refused to send tributes. Commander was hunted across 3 star systems before he was finally captured by a coalition of former slave species. And on Earth, governments that had the existence of alien life were forced to face the truth. A new organization formed, built around the people who had made first contact on their own terms. They called it the Terran Recovery Initiative, and Bate was one of its founders. 6 months after the rescue, the initiative sent its first official message to the galactic community. It was simple and direct. "We know about the abductions. We know about all of them. Return our people, or we will come and get them ourselves." They received the message. They did not respond. 3 weeks later, a human fleet appeared in their skis. Back on the ranch in Montana, Danny Monroe stood on his back porch, watching his daughter chase fireflies in the fading light. She was stronger now in ways that no child should have to be, but she was home. She was safe, and she was laughing. Danny smiled and took a sip of his coffee. The stars were coming out above, the same stars he had crossed to bring her back. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning a lesson that they had learned too late. Humans were not prey. Humans did not give up. And if you took what they loved, they would follow you to the edge of the universe to take it back. The fireflies glowed and danced, and Lily's laughter filled the evening air. Everything was exactly as it should be.